Hello everyone and welcome to SpaceChem 2024 tournament week 8. Today's level is Decorruption. This is the level you see on your screen. The basic idea behind this level is that you are given an input molecule that looks almost the same as the output molecule, but with one atom different. Specifically, what you have in the input is an 88 atom of radium, and as you can see, you have to make 8 arsenic, which is 33. So in other words, you have a 55 atomic mass excess per input molecule, which you essentially have to turn into a whole new output molecule, because as you can see, you do not have any recyclers. You have a fixed grid of 9 reactors, and you essentially have to make a kind of an intertwining labyrinth among them, because you will have to make at least 2 passes, one for the main part, one for the radium, for the output molecule that was created from the radium. This was intended to give a kind of an epic feeling, given that this is the last non-special and non-computation level of this tournament. We have 2 types of reactors. On the outside we have a fairly simple reactor, and in the middle we have more tools. This middle reactor was pretty much a last minute addition. There was no higher thought behind it. There was no specifically anything intended to do with it. Additionally, in addition to what you see here, there was a special rule. The special rule is that in each reactor you are only allowed to make atoms of a single valency, that is scalar, that is maximum bond number. You are allowed to use several reactors to produce the same valency, but you are not allowed to produce multiple in a single one. As you can see, the mass involved is fairly simple. It's not going to be much of a spoiler if I tell you just right now. You split 88 to 44, then to 20, then to 22, then to 11, fuse it with 22, and you get 33. It's pretty much the only viable mass, and it's what we are going to see every time. If we divide atomic masses by 11, we have 5 excess in the input, and we have 32 in total in the output. So in other words, the mass is doesn't exactly work out very clearly. Okay, that's enough for the preamble, I think. So let's begin with the actual solutions. Today we have 5 scoring solutions plus 1 non-scoring solutions. Unfortunately, even though the level was intended to be comparatively simple compared to week 7, the participation was not very high. Okay. In the 5th place we have spiritual shampoo with the solution name sodium wool. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. What you see above is, despite looking like a waste pipe, is actually just a wall. You are not allowed by the rules to use it as a garbage dump, which spiritual shampoo gleefully ignores, and additionally covers the whole place in annotations that I will have to drag off. Okay, as you can see, we have a spaghetti mess of reactors, which is going to be a running theme of this level of this level, because you have a fixed number of 9 reactors. Even though a few solutions will not use one of them, but you'll always essentially have this kind of spaghetti. Okay, let's begin. In spiritual shampoo begins with the okay, one more thing. Unlike the usual numbering, where we begin with first, then go to second, then third, and so on, here I will designate reactors by their position in the grid. So top left is the first reactor, then second, then third, then fourth, then fifth, then sixth, and so on. So spiritual shampoo begins in the 7th reactor. What does he do here? First of well, he rotates, then takes a good bottom half, For whatever reason does this? Oh no, well, not for whatever reason, but to essentially he makes a full output molecule right in the first reactor from the two good halves of the input. By the way, as you can see, okay, blue triggers input alpha on the 8th cycle for the first time, and then on the 22nd. So that gives a cycle loop of 14. Okay, so down into the 9th goes a full output, and up into the 4th we get a good quarter and a bad corrupted quarter. The good quarter goes up into here, where we make halves, which goes into the 8th. Okay, we'll get there later, but for now the good quarters are completely handled, so essentially the only interesting part is what do we do with this radium. And what we do with this radium is we split it off here, and into the first reactor goes this cluster and a single ruthenium. Yes, ruthenium. We are essentially just splitting the ruthenium and then refining the bad quarters in order to bring them closer to what we need. So, second reactor. Second reactor. Oh no. First we talk about the fifth reactor, where we get the leftover titanium. What happens here is we first of all split one titanium up into natrium, and then we make those clusters of 4 titanium, both by blue and by red. And once we have handled them, once we have made this cluster, we split them off into 2 sodium, 2 titanium, which gets dropped off and sent into the third reactor, but that will be later. In the second, we take this semi-refined bad quarter and we append fuse 2 together and append 2 natrium, so we get a half of the final output molecule, which gets sent off into the 8th reactor, which you might remember, this is the good half which we made previously. So in other words, we fuse 2 halves from different sources, and that's the output that goes into the output goes into the 9th reactor, and the 9th reactor just merges two streams together. And finally, in the third reactor, we take those natrium to okay, I don't remember how to pronounce chemical molecules correctly, but anyway, to titanium to sodium, we append one sodium, and we again make those good halves, which again get bonded together into an output molecule, which gets sent into the sixth reactor once again. You might notice the top side output where we send out a single sodium atom right at the start for absolutely no good reason. It goes into the sodium wall. Well, I mean, it goes into the north wall where it remains without breaking the rules, but without being of any use. So this is pretty much it. This was spiritual shampoo with 1075 cycles and a metric of 1136. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the metric. The metric is cycles plus symbols divided by 4. So in other words, each cycle is worth 4 symbols. So this is done in order to discourage very ugly latency gains. Okay. In the first place, we have anningmay with the solution name SpaceChem TIS style 11.2 cycle loop. So, even though it says 11.2, but as the input, it works on a 13 length cycle. The result comes from handling the radium. So, in the first or as the fourth reactor, we do what is going to be the most common way of handling the input molecule. We split off this radium sodium, and the rest goes off. Okay, radium sodium gets split right away, and this goes into the first reactor, where nothing interesting happens. We just split off. Titanium goes up, titanium sodium goes down. As we are going to see later, this is not quite a desirable configuration, because you will have to do something interesting. Well, to do something interesting from this sodium titanium, you will have to add an additional sodium. So 2 sodiums plus titanium would have been a much better thing to send off here, but what we have. So this goes into this is joined with the part with the complete input without this part missing, where we get an incomplete output with titanium instead of arsenic. So 2 instead of 3. We merge them together, so now we just need one more sodium to complete the thing. Second goes into the fifth. We will look at it a bit later. For now, we've split off pure titanium, which is handled in the 8th reactor, where we get, by the way, we get this exact shape that I was just talking about, 2 sodiums plus titanium. And why is this convenient? This is convenient because we can fuse sodium into titanium, and we get arsenic sodium, which is one of the 8 parts of the output molecule. This is okay. We are looking at the wrong part. Okay, I wanted to show this part. Okay, we have sodium we have sodium split that is split off from the titanium, which gets sent off into the fifth reactor, where we finally make the output shape. Here, anningmay does something kinda weird. As you can see, he bonds this. So right now he has a complete output molecule, but now he gets rid of the bottom of this atom, and then compensates by putting a new one and rebonding. Why he did it this way and not another, I don't quite understand. Why, whatever. And another thing here is that here we have made sodium by splitting off titanium, but here we immediately make it. We immediately fuse it back together in the titanium, so well, it is what it is. And into omega, which goes into the third reactor, we have again titanium plus 2 sodium, which gives a nice configuration. Okay, and now let's look at the nines, or as nothing interesting here. We just take this triplet, which we're going to see very commonly, and it just makes a complete output molecule right here. This goes into the third reactor, which actually does the exact same thing, but from separate parts. And on the top, blue just transfers what we've made in the ninth reactor onwards. And finally, in the sixth reactor, sixth reactor just merges the two outputs together, which is going to be generally what the sixth reactor does. Now, as you can see, one interesting thing is that the output molecule is made in three different places: in the ninth reactor, in the third reactor, and in the fifth. In the fifth, and previously it's made from almost the input. It's made from this defective part of the input molecule. So that's pretty much it. This was anningmay with metric score of 1027. So a metric improvement of 109. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, Spiritual Shampoo also does this thing where he makes the output molecule in 3 different places. I think. I'm pretty sure he does. Yeah, he does. Okay. Okay, third place. We have ToughThought, which solution name uses 8 reactors, which is absolutely correct. It indeed uses 8 reactors. Fourth reactor, we have a 10 cycle loop. Exact same thing as anningmay. We are just making we are just extracting radium sodium and splitting off into ruthenium sodium and ruthenium, which is a fairly efficient approach, which is going to be fairly common. Okay, this was fourth. Now we go into fifth. Here we handle this ruthenium and sodium into this beautiful extrusion. We split off titanium up, and the rest goes down, with an interesting addendum that every fourth loop. Okay, let's start from the beginning. As you can see, usually red sends titanium up, but every fourth loop, like right now, it instead drops this titanium into omega, which goes into the second reactor. Why does this? We are going to see a bit later, but for now, this titanium gets sent into the first reactor, where we get another beautiful extrusion. Absolutely gorgeous. And occasionally red skips a cycle. So it's almost double pumped, but occasionally red skips a cycle. This is the first, and now the second. Okay. In the second, we are making two different shapes. Remember that we had this XSTI. In most cases, we input titanium sodium plus natrium from the top, which allows us to make this shape, A5 shape. No, I'm sorry, A6 shape. But occasionally, instead of inputting titanium sodium, we instead input titanium on this spot, which produces this shape instead. This was the second reactor, and it gets sent, and everything we've seen here gets sent into the 8th reactor. And what happens here is as you can see, the input is basically 2 titanium plus 4 sodium, which is basically 2 triplets we've seen previously plus 1 triplet here. So essentially we are sending one arsenic sodium up and another virtual arsenic sodium down, with the added complications that occasionally we get only one triplet. So in other words, we occasionally get more, we occasionally send more up, and up is into the third reactor. I guess it has something to do with timing, because looking at topology, I see no other reason why you wouldn't just create equal streams, because as you can see, the 6th reactor just merges the 2 streams from the 3rd and from the 9th again. And okay, the 9th again takes the triplet, fills the hole in the defective input, and outputs that as is, while the 3rd extrudes a new output from the arsenic sodiums, and the 6th just merges with some additional synchronization logic. That's pretty much it. Okay, this was ToughThought with a metric score of 899. Oh, by the way, he had only, unlike the previous 2 solutions, he only had 2 different ways of making the output in the 3rd and the 9th, unlike 3 from the in the previous ones. Okay. In the second place, we have Team Sacred Foundry with solution name sub 700 cycles. By the way, Team Sacred Foundry is Lazy Comet and Yellow Bunny. They've been crushing the competition in the 3 previous rounds, but this time they are merely in the 2nd place. Okay, what do we have here? Unusual split. Not only do we not just extract radium sodium, but we actually split in a interesting way, as you can see, not lengthwise but crosswise, essentially. And by the way, this is a 9 cycle loop, so it's automatically going to be faster. Okay. So psi, this shape gets sent into psi, where we are making this thing which is kinda looks like the output, but is not really, because we are lacking 2 additional sodiums. Here what we are doing is actually, what are we doing here? Oh, okay. We are fusing this. We are refining what we had here by fusing the sodium into titanium and inputting a fresh titanium. So now instead of lacking 2 sodiums, we have 2 excess sodiums. Which okay, this was 7th, 8th, and now 9th reactor, where we just split those off, and on the top we have the finished output molecule, and on the bottom we just have sodium, which goes into the second reactor, but we are going to get there a bit later. Okay. Okay, this bottom output goes into the 5th reactor, the stronger one, where we take this good half. First, we take this good half and make a finished molecule, finished output molecule from it, and at the same time we input ruthenium, which we just split into 2 titaniums. This goes into the 1st reactor, which takes those 2 titaniums and turns into the triplet we've already seen, which does it very quickly and elegantly. And in the second reactor, first of all, we extrude this shape from the 1st reactor, and on the top we are taking sodiums and extracting yet another set of triplets separately from the bottom. Okay, this was the second, and now in the 3rd reactor we'll just merge those 2 streams. As you can see, red and blue have the exact same commands on the top right. Very elegant conversion of this stack into half of the finished molecule. And we don't actually care where this stack comes from, whether it's from the bottom or from the top. So this is the 3rd, and yeah, that's it. We now just merge the top and bottom streams in the 6th, and that's the final output. We are back to making it. We are back to making the output molecule in 3 different places. This is not really a level which has many interesting tricks, where you can say, oh, this solution is better than that one because they found this interesting trick. It's not like this. Here it's just purely optimization. Basically, the faster you have your input reactor, the faster you are going to have the output, because essentially because the size of your input loop is going to define how quickly you're going to be able to push in new molecules, because valency is essentially not a factor in this level. So this was Team Sacred Foundry with a matrix score of 762 for a drop of 137. And finally, in the 1st place, we have Flight Risk, which is GG Goal, Rex Kicks, and Vipumay, with solution name Definitely Impossible Before. Congratulations to the 3rd place. So, first reactor, same as usual. Extract, split, done. Top goes into the fourth reactor, which is again fairly simple, simple and standard. We get bond together ruthenium and ruthenium sodium. We split them, and we end up with titanium and 2 titanium plus sodium on the bottom. Nothing unusual here, as in maybe that it's double pump instead of the usual. Instead of the usual. Top titanium goes into the seventh reactor. Where can you guess what we are making? That's right, we are making those triplets. Well, they're going to manifest themselves only in this next reactor. We make the triplets, we plug in the hole, and that's the output. This was the 8th reactor. And okay, now let's go back into the second reactor, where we take those parts, and all the second reactor does is split off one. Well, it takes sodium plus 2 titanium and turns it into 2 sodium plus 1 titanium. So all it does is split off 1 natrium. You have a lot of you have a lot of reactors, so spending 1 reactor just on this is not really a problem. It's a highly serializable level. In the third reactor, all we are doing is once again this useful triplet from this excess sodium that you've just seen. Okay, fifth reactor. Okay, this is the part. Okay, now we get to the interesting part that took me comparatively long time to understand. As you can see, we input 2 sets of triplets from the 2 inputs. We mostly output into this into the top psi output, even when the red does something on by itself, it still usually outputs into the top. But as you can see, in the top we have a build up into the 6, where the 2 valdos just seemingly, well, they are waiting for something, but seemingly just input from the other output, from the other input. Nothing interesting is happening in the 6. But very rarely, red instead red outputs into the bottom omega output, which goes into the 9th reactor instead. So what's happening in the 9th reactor? As you can see, there's a lot of input betas and only occasional, very rare input alpha. As you may remember, input beta is the very high throughput of almost finished input molecule plus a single triplet. So in other ways, this is going to be much faster than making a whole output molecule from the triplets or from the single sodiums. So what is okay? Now let's look what happens normally. Normally, all that happens here is blue passes the finished outputs from the 8s into the 6, but very rarely red inputs something from the input alpha, which is a half of the which is one half. This can be fast, or this cannot be fast. Okay. We have inputted something from input alpha, and now let's see what happens. This is a 6 reactor where we are usually doing the same thing, passing the completed outputs into the output. But okay, okay. We have finally inputted an anomalous signal molecule, which causes both red and blue to go into the upper part. As you can see, we have built up a buffer of inputs from the fifths. So in other words, we have a high throughput on here on the bottom. We have a medium throughput here from the fifth to the sixth that you're looking at, and finally we have a low throughput of those signals from the fifth and down into the ninth. So what this signal does is it causes both red and blue to do a few passes of input alphas and thus empty out this buffer that we've had here. So when is this going to happen? Oh, we've built up a lot of buffer, and now we blue does 2 passes, red does a variable number of passes until it senses until it senses what? Yes, until it senses that blue is finished with its own work. Okay, so I don't even okay, how I don't know how to call the number of simultaneous creations of output molecule. I think it's 2.5. Oh, and the level ended while I was thinking what to call it. Yeah, it's kinda 2 outputs and kinda 3 outputs. Okay, this was flight risk, which is I already said who they are, which is with a metric score of 653, which is a drop of 109. Okay, wait, did I miss that? No, of 109. Yeah, so they got the first place, and now we only have a single-waldo by Team Sacred Foundry, which is going to be really quick because it's basically the exact same thing which we've seen in their scoring solution, just in a single-waldo. I don't really know what to say here other than it's slightly slower, but the logic is exactly the same. We've already seen this exact shape in this exact okay. Yeah, sorry. I got lost in the reactors for a bit there. So it's the exact same thing we've seen, plus this exact same process of raffination, this exact same sodium, blah 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 blah. Okay, Yellow Bunny says that reactor 6 is probably the only interesting one, and why? Oh my god. Yeah, if by interesting you call a massive number of flip-flops, that is horrifying to look at. What mass does this even do? 32 to 5 balancing using all primed flip-flops. Oh my god. Thur says, figuring out a way to merge in the extra 5 outputs every 32 outputs on the 7th cycle is impressive. Yeah, it is. Actually, I think he might be talking about the previous. What? Okay, what can I even say here? That I'm not counting out how the math here works. I'm just assuming it took a lot of work, and it looks appropriately cursed. Okay. happening here. Yeah, 5/32 is such an ugly ratio, but it's already a fairly simple, comparatively simple level compared to, well, compared to, for example, week 7, and compared to the initial draft, which I'm going to show you in just a second. By the way, I think what is actually happening here? Okay, I'm not going to do the math, but basically the point is that the bottom is high throughput, while the top is low throughput, because top is made manually, while the bottom is made from the input molecule. And whereas in the scoring solution, Yellow Bunny could basically do separately could separately handle the top by blue and the bottom by red. Here, without worrying about synchronization other than that they don't collide, now he actually has to count how often the top comes in compared to the bottom. This was single-waldo by Team Sacred Foundry. This is almost all I want to show about this level, except for one last thing. This is what I was originally planning to give you all. Before IEEE, the angel on my shoulder, decided me that hey, maybe there is enough cursed nuclear mass for one tournament. As you can see, this level. Oh, by the way, you might notice that the rule in the previous level was the rule in the previous level was a bit weird. It didn't really affect much. It was, you almost could ignore the rule, and you would basically end up with with almost the exact same solution that you would have ended up otherwise. And that's because it was made for a different level, for kind of different level, which you are looking at right now. As you can see, instead of an elegant input molecule and an elegant output molecule, you instead have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. With the output being 11, 12, 5, 14, 15, 16. The level title was Chemistry Hotfix, which was a joke about the fact that if you look at the valency row from 11, 12, the valency numbers, you will see that it goes 1, 2, 4, 4, 5, 6. So, wouldn't it be a hotfix if you had to change this 4 valency into a 3 valency, like for example boron? I have actually mapped out the mass for this level, which looks like this. In chat we are seeing people seeing IEEE for convincing me to not give you this level. This is how the nuclear mass would work. So basically, you would need a lot of shuttling between different reactors, and you would need to commit a lot of them to different valencies. But this is not the level you could, so be helpful. Be thankful. Okay, that's all I want to show you. No new level today, thankfully. If anybody has any any questions, now is the time to ask it. Yeah, by the way, part of the reason this level was scrapped was because the nuclear mass is just fairly linear. There isn't really much deviations you can do, but basically it's a hassle. Okay. If anybody has any questions, you have like 10-15 seconds to ask them. Okay, looks like nobody has any questions, so we'll be wrapping up for today. This has been SpaceChem tournament week 8. Thanks everyone for participating, and congratulations to Flight Risk for the first place, and goodbye.